Okay, I'm back for round 2 of today, second stream of today. Not getting too many people at the minute. Maybe it's the background, who knows? Only got like 30 people last stream, but who knows, maybe it'll be better now. It was a bit early in the day. So thank you for joining us, everyone, for the movement for ending all suffering. It's called the pro-extinction movement because we're in favor of extinction. The thing is that we live in a terrible world. We live in the worst world possible. Most people have it completely upside down, completely backwards. They think that life existing is a good thing. But in this world, which is incredibly dangerous, incredibly cruel, life existing is a bad thing. You know, if we lived in heaven, then sure, it would be great. But we live in a horrible world, what is effectively hell. So life being sent to hell, that's obviously bad. So is that what we live in now? Yes, absolutely. Over 99.9% of life born onto this planet and into this world will be tortured to death as a baby. Because most life is born into nature, into the most dangerous conditions possible, where most of them get eaten alive as babies. Animals are essentially food on legs, and the easiest ones to eat are the smallest ones, the babies, the children who can't defend themselves. So most life born on this planet will be eaten alive a few days after being born. And you know, until then, they're starving, they've got diseases, parasites, they're freezing to death as well, they're terrified, they're watching their family get eaten alive, and then they also get eaten alive themselves. That is literally what happens to most life born into this world. So life itself is actually the worst thing possible that could happen. It's a terrible thing, an awful thing. We need to stop glorifying life because that's like a coping mechanism, and we need to start admitting it, recognizing it, accepting it. Life is a bad thing. Life shouldn't exist. Life is the worst thing that can exist, and we need to do everything we can to make sure that life doesn't exist in a responsible and peaceful way, mind you. So that's what our movement is doing. That's what the pro-extinction movement exists for. We are here to end all suffering. We're here to end all animal suffering, all human suffering, all suffering for all life. You know, what's the alternative? It's to allow suffering to continue, to allow children to suffer, to allow animals to suffer. That's not acceptable. Nothing justifies that. Nothing can justify that. There's no amount of pleasure that can justify a child being tortured to death. Like, there's no amount of pizza, no amount of Netflix that can make up for that. There never will be. So safety for children from being tortured is the most important thing. It takes priority over pleasures, access to happiness and things like that. Safety comes first, right? And in an incredibly, horrifically dangerous world like the one we live in, with so much suffering and potential, obviously safety should come first. Okay, we've got somebody requesting to join. Let's bring them on. Let's get some debates going. Hello, Matt.
Hi. It was more of just a question, not really like a debate.
Yeah.
Sure. How would you say that the forced, because you say euthanasia or whatever it is, as if they would choose to do it, but I don't think most people would choose to. So how would you say that the forced killing of 8 billion people, however many people on the planet, is worse in terms of suffering than any child abuse or animal abuse that we know is on planet Earth right now?
Yeah, because we're actually, you know, the existing living population on the planet is a tiny minority. The vast majority of life and stakeholders are in the future. So it's impossible to cause more suffering with extinction than you prevent, because you're preventing billions of years of suffering, right, compared to something momentary. Plus, the euthanasia, the extinction, would actually be better than the alternative for those who have to experience it, because it's going to give them immediate safety from suffering. It's going to give them immediate safety from the cruel natural death that they would have had otherwise. So in every way, shape and form, extinction is a good thing for life.
And I think, I don't know, I guess that's just where your ethics model comes from, because most people is to reduce suffering. So I don't think you can say that you're reducing suffering if you're causing unnecessary suffering by making them kill themselves.
Well, we're not asking anyone to do that, to kill themselves. So that would cause
But
terrible
that's what you said.
suffering.
You want everyone to
Yeah, no,
kill
no.
themselves, right?
Euthanasia is a different thing. So euthanasia is something that a professional does to another life form to end their suffering. It's like what vets do, what doctors do for their patients. So we're
So
not
okay,
asking.
when everyone does it, then what would the last euthanasia person have to do? The last person
Well,
admitting
it
that
would actually be
euthanasia is.
quite cruel to ask people to euthanize themselves. So it would be done for them.
So you would forcefully do it.
That's what it says in the title, right?
But okay. So I guess that I didn't know how you do that. Do you not think maybe like not letting anyone have kids would be cause less suffering in total, and you can still achieve your goal by just
No,
castrating
no,
everyone?
because even though those people themselves are still in danger of suffering and a cruel death, a cruel
Yeah,
life,
but
being
I'm saying,
trapped in
would a
life of hell.
lifetime, let's say the max lifetime, sorry, but is 100 years. Would you say that allowing 100 years more of suffering to continue is in net suffering? I think that's less than 8 billion euthanasias, because surely 100 years of suffering, you can't physically get that much bad stuff than 8 billion, causing
But
everyone
what you don't
forcibly to
understand,
die.
Matt, is that we don't have total agreement. So what you're talking about is some fantasy world where everyone agrees to this.
No, it's when everyone doesn't agree, because that's what I'm saying. It would cause a lot of suffering. No one would agree to do that. That's why it would be
But
a
no,
really bad thing, because you're not reducing, you're
you were
causing it.
suggesting, Matt, that everyone could just voluntarily do it, but that's not
No,
realistic.
no, I'm not. I'm saying no one would do that.
Yeah, no,
Like
that's what you were
that's the
suggesting.
thing.
You were saying that we could
So
have
so you
100
would
years
cause
of
you would cause
antinatalism, right?
suffering. Yeah, like, but I think that would be
But that's never
surely
going to work,
less
Matt. That's
painful.
never going to work,
No,
right?
it's forcibly doing it. They still wouldn't agree, but forcibly saying no more kids would be surely less damaging than forcibly killing everyone, because a lifetime of suffering is
Matt,
not worth
billions of
eight
more
billion
years of
murders.
suffering, there's nothing worse than that.
No, a lifetime. If no one can have kids, then there will only be 100 years, surely.
Matt, you're not making any sense, okay?
Yeah.
We're
So
not on the
okay,
same
imagine
page here.
imagine a world where no one can have kids. Yeah, that everyone will die out within probably 100 years, right? Compared to how much suffering can actually be done in 100 years compared to the killing of 8 billion people
It's
instantaneously.
not just about humans. So we need to do animal extinction, we need to do extinction for other
Yeah, the
life.
same applies to
Humanity
animals.
comes
Okay, so
last.
so a lifetime of animals is even shorter. How can you say that killing all animals is worse when an animal only lives for like 10 years? So if you said no more animal babies, then there's only 10 years of.
Like, chat, am I wrong here? Because it sounds like Matt is drunk or something. I honestly have no idea what he's talking about, like not even a little bit. So forgive me, but it just sounded like complete gibberish. Okay, let's move on. Hello, how's it going?
Hello, I'm well. So, basically, my question is: do you think like existence in it of itself is like inherently bad, or just a suffering?
Well, existence has suffering, and that kind of makes it bad. I guess it's not inherently bad in a strictly technical sense, but in a practical sense, yeah, it is bad.
Yeah. So, do you think like suffering overrides every other like
Yeah,
value?
absolutely. Yeah, totally.
In like what degree can you put it into like a ratio, or like under what moral framework do you work, like negative
Yeah,
utilitarianism or whatever?
only the end of all suffering is moral, and the total prevention of suffering. Anything less than that, and you're saying that we should put children into danger, animals into danger. So we have to prioritize 100% safety from suffering, prevention of suffering. Anything less than that, and you're quite literally saying, we should put some children in danger. And it's like, well, why? And you'd have to say, well, so that some selfish people can have fun at their expense. It just doesn't make sense.
So, do you think that existence without suffering is better than non-existence?
Yeah.
So, but in that case, I think it's illogical to aim for extinction, because either you show me that as suffering-free or like radically reduced suffering life is possible, or
Well, you
I
would
mean
need magic.
impossible.
You would need magic, basically, to provide
Can you show me that it's impossible?
Yeah, I can show you. So to provide 100% safety from suffering and from a bad life, only magic can do that, right? Whereas if I don't have a child, they're guaranteed not to have a bad life, right? If I have a child today, what would it take to 100% guarantee them a good life? It's impossible, right? It will never be possible.
You have to show the impossibility. Is there like any logical contradiction? Like you can't just say, yeah, it's impossible, you need magic. You actually have to
you'd have to cure every last disease, right? You'd have to snap your fingers.
I agree.
And rapture.
Right?
You would have to literally rapture life into heaven, basically.
No, that doesn't follow.
Like that.
So
it does.
What I'm thinking is, I can explain my reasoning. So what I'm thinking is, if you can't show that it's actually impossible, like a logical contradiction or whatever, and you agreed with me that existence without suffering would be higher ranked in what we try to achieve, then if we go for the route of extinction, that's an irreversible choice, which stops the possibility.
No, it's not irreversible, no.
Extinction isn't irreversible. If we're extinct.
It's reversible. Yeah, it's reversible.
How so? Explain.
So I'll sort of answer both of your questions in one, really. So it's never going to be ethical, correct, or moral to aim for this heaven technology that you're on about, right? And I talk about this every day on my streams because I get asked the same question. So basically, you would need magic, you would need omniscience, omnipotence to provide 100% safety. But the thing is that is so unrealistic compared to what we have now, whereas euthanasia, extinction, these things already exist. We've already done them. So to say that, how should we end suffering? Should we do it in a practical way that we can do now and guarantee no suffering? Or should we allow that suffering while trying to develop magic? So what's the right thing for the victims? It's to help them now with the real help, instead of saying, no, we're not going to lift a finger to help you. We're just going to sit here and watch you get molested while we try to develop magic.
No, so you're just using like the word magic, but you can't.
It is magic. You would need omniscience, right, to provide 100% safety.
Like, I don't see a reason why I should believe that. It's obvious. Obvious isn't an argument. Appeal to like common sense isn't really an argument. So
you think that being safe from a bad life in this world is as simple as what?
I don't think it's impossible. So listen to me. It's like a difference. So I think either
you're talking about providing a guarantee of 100% bulletproof safety, right?
Can I explain my position? Like, either a suffering-free world and life is possible or it's impossible. If it's possible, extinction is not ideal because it prevents the better outcome. Because the better outcome would be for sentient life.
You're not thinking rationally,
for sentient
right?
beings.
You're not thinking rationally.
It is completely rational.
You're thinking of you're thinking of what's the better outcome, but you're not thinking of all the victims being abused. You're completely ignoring them.
No, I'm not. Harm reduction.
Yes, you are. You are. You're saying that we should allow animal abuse and child abuse for as long as it takes to develop magic, which just doesn't make sense. Instead of trying to develop magic and allowing child abuse, we should just end child abuse now in the realistic way that we have.
You need to show the bridge between suffering's existence. I agree with you that suffering is bad. It's in the definition, but I don't see how it follows that we should go extinct based on that suffering is bad.
Okay,
and how that is better than
because a life of hell is too terrible to allow, right? So
I
if
agree.
a child
That's why we reduce.
Yeah, but reducing is like a tool of the oppressors. It's like saying we shouldn't end slavery because we still benefit from slavery. That's what a slave owner would say. You're using a slave owner argument.
It's not.
It is. It is. You're saying we shouldn't end slavery.
That's not analogous. It would
It
be
is.
that, no, the goal of abolish.
Dude, I'm done with you. You're finished. It's totally analogous. If you have the option to end suffering and you say, let's not end suffering, yeah, you're saying let the children suffer, let the animals suffer. It's absolutely analogous. If you're saying don't end slavery, even though we can, let's just reduce it a little bit. That's unfair to all of the slaves that you're saying, yeah, well, we're benefiting too much, so they need to stay as slaves. It's selfish, it's immoral, right? That's exactly analogous. So, goodbye with your rubbish arguments. Okay, Aiden, how's it going?
Good. So you gonna lead by example or what?
Yeah, I am leading by example. I'm doing activism, growing the movement
Nope,
to make it
that's not leading
possible.
by example.
It
Somebody's got to
is
go
leading
first,
by
buddy.
example. It is, Aiden.
Somebody's
It
got to
is
go
leading by
first, buddy.
example. We have to grow the movement. We need activists to do peaceful activism with us so that we can grow the movement until it's large enough to actually achieve our goals. So I am leading by example. Doing activism to grow the movement is the only activism that's going to help end suffering. So yes, I am leading by example, but we're against self-harm, we're against violence. That won't help anyone. We are bringing Keith onto the stage now. Hello, Keith.
Hello. I didn't really request, but I'm kind of with you on this because it seems like there's just too much suffering, and it's like I want to say that I would like to resolve it differently than to be extinct, but like you said, it's magic or whatever, but I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of in the middle here. I don't really want to end extinction, the whole thing. Does
Yeah.
that make sense? Yeah.
No,
like,
absolutely. I feel the same way about it all the time as well, because it's like an animalistic hangover. And when considering, should life exist or not, there's always going to be that part saying, "Oh, there must be a way, right? There must be a way." Now, what I didn't get explained to the last person is that we actually are okay with life existing only for two possible reasons, right? So humanity should continue to exist so that we can help other life go extinct and end their suffering. And then things will happen. One of two things will happen. Either humanity will go extinct because it's no longer needed to help with all the suffering, or by the time that happens, somehow we will have invented the magic to provide safe conditions. Now, it might not be magic, but it's very difficult to say that it would be anything else, right? Let's say that you have an incredibly advanced technology that's not magic, but it's almost magic. If there's any chance it could still go wrong, even the smallest chance, the most remote chance, then that danger, that risk is still trumps the pleasure. So if there's any risk of danger, then humanity should go extinct. But if somehow we find a way that there's absolutely no danger, no risk of it, then humanity can continue. But that it's only going to happen if there's a 100% guarantee of safety. Because that's what life deserves, right? Life deserves better than to be put into dangerous conditions. Life deserves better than to be put into risk, right? It's not fair, it's cruel, and you could say, well, what about the pleasure? But if it goes wrong, then children are going to get tortured, animals are going to get tortured, people are going to be trapped in lives of hell and extreme, like hell, right? Extreme suffering. So if there's any risk of that, it infinitely outweighs the pleasure, basically. So life should only be allowed to exist in 100% safety. Anything less than that, it's wrong.
Yeah, you're not only talking about people, but nature, storms, all of it, like the whole system, the whole reality is danger no matter what, right? In some aspect.
Yeah, I mean, over 99.9% of animals born into nature will die a gruesome death as a baby. So life itself is the worst thing that could possibly happen. It's a tragic, unfortunate natural phenomenon that is the worst thing that could happen. It's a tragedy that it does exist. Anywhere that life exists, any planet that has life, it's going to be a meat grinder for babies, right? Can you imagine anything worse than that? Literally a meat grinder for babies. That is what life is, unfortunately. But we have sort of ascended to the top of the food pyramid as apex predators. And now we're saying that the suffering should continue and that the suffering is beautiful and the suffering is good. So we are the ultimate villains, basically.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you go right now. Nice talking to you.
No worries, Keith. Thank you for coming on. All right, let's continue. We've got some more guests in the queue. Let's bring them on. We have someone called Serial. Hello.
Hello.
How's it going?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure, but I'll figure that out one day in my life.
Sorry?
Yeah, you said like, how's it going? I said I'll figure that out one day in my life.
Yeah. So do you have any questions for us? Any opinions?
Yeah, so you're against things that cause suffering, right?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, so, and you believe that to do that is for humans to work towards, because we are at the top of the food chain, so we have the potential to end all suffering with animals that are less than us,
Yeah.
and work towards extinction, right?
Yeah.
So would that not contradict itself? Because in that of itself, you would cause mass suffering that you are trying to stop.
Yeah, but it's the lesser of two evils, and therefore it's the right thing.
But so, what do you mean the lesser of two evils?
So you're saying that the suffering would be bad, right? But if we don't do it, there'll be even worse suffering.
And by what standards are you saying, talking about suffering?
Well, all suffering, right? You know, children being abused, animals being eaten alive, starving to death. There's lots of different types of suffering, and there's lots of different types of extreme suffering.
So yeah, is all suffering wrong?
Yeah, absolutely. No one deserves to suffer, right? No animal deserves to suffer. No child deserves to be tortured. So absolutely it's wrong, and we should be as against it as we can be. If you're not against child torture, then I would say that's pretty sad.
Well, yeah, I never said that child torture is wrong, but could I, if I make the argument that suffering in life is not always wrong, would you agree with that?
Yeah, but it's not relevant because...
How is that not relevant? Because you said that all suffering is bad.
Yeah, but because you're focusing on a small minority, right, of lucky ones.
That's not necessarily true.
Well, in a world where 99% of life born will be tortured to death as a baby, I'd say it's definitely true.
Wait, 99% of children will be tortured?
Yeah, because over 99.9% of life born on this planet will be born as wild animals in nature, where over 99% of them die a horrible death as a baby.
And where are you getting that from?
Research, science.
Well, yes, and I'm not saying that you have not done the work to find that information, but what I'm saying is that is there one study that you have come to this conclusion that 99% of like life suffers?
So my source, which people are asking, it is ChatGPT. Now, people immediately scoff at that, like you're doing, but there's really nothing wrong with that. And also, by laughing at that and by making light of the numbers, you're trying to say, oh, well, you know, if 98% of children get tortured to death, then it's okay. 99 okay, but you don't have the source for that. But maybe it's 98, and therefore it's okay. So really, you're laughing, but we should be
No,
laughing
no,
at
no.
you
So
because
what
you're
I was
supporting child
no.
abuse.
So what I was joking at, because someone said chat GPT, and I know that you have probably done your work that isn't chat GPT. That's what I was joking at.
Well, okay, my bad in that case. But
I
yeah,
wasn't. I wasn't
the
joking
thing
at
is,
anything else.
yeah, fair. The problem is that there aren't any actual studies on this. So you do have to use an aggregate AI, basically, like ChatGPT.
And how reliable is AI or chat GPT?
So it's not that reliable, but it's reliable enough for us to know that it is true that over 99% of animals will die painfully during infancy.
Wait, so say that again. Sorry.
I said it is reliable enough for us to know with certainty that over 99% of animals born on this planet will die a painful death during childhood.
And have you done any field work to come to this conclusion?
We've done all the research on it.
I mean, I'm interested because I want to learn things too. Is there something that you could send me so that I could?
No, the thing is that like, for people that would be like, well, if it's 98%, then I don't care. We don't care about them or their opinions. These 99 versus 98 percenters, for them, there's a certain amount of child abuse that they're happier with, right? For us, there's no amount that's okay. But for you,
don't
if
think that
98% of children getting abused is okay, 99% isn't, then we don't care about you or your opinion.
I don't think that anyone has said that abuse is good.
Great. Thank you. All right, let's move on. So we've got someone called Life with Lemons coming on now. Let's bring them on. Loading.
Wait, how did that happen?
Probably misclick.
Oh, okay. Hello.
Hello, how's it going?
So, good. So I have like a few questions, and it's gonna sound like I'm being snarky, but I'm genuinely trying to understand completely the mindset, right? Because a mindset like that is complicated, to say the least. So I just want to get a full idea of how it goes and how, what direction it is in every sense that I can before we start the debate, if that's okay with you.
Go for it.
Okay, fantastic. So if a mother, say a mother has that same mindset, a similar mindset, human, and because of that, they unalive their child, would you be pro or against that? And could you explain the position?
Yeah, so we need a strong and healthy humanity to keep reproducing, because humanity is the vehicle for ending suffering for others. So the more humans we have at the minute, the better.
But right now, that just confuses me more, because you say we should all just not exist.
Well, that's not what I'm saying. No, I'm saying that we have to forcibly cause it, right? Just wishing for it's not going to do anything.
Right. Well, wouldn't that be a mother taking steps to forcibly cause extinction?
No, because it wouldn't be done in an organized way, and therefore it's done in an ignorant and irresponsible way. If you're just taking action into your own hands without understanding what you're doing, then you're probably going to cause more harm than good.
Okay, actually, fair answer. And so what about if someone, holds that same mindset and unalives themselves? Would you say that it was fair and that that's something they should do because life is suffering and it's terrible and might as well take you out?
I would say that, it's not about whether or not you should or shouldn't do it. I would say that people either will or won't. However, as an activist fighting for the end of all suffering, if we had a reason to want to not exist anymore, we would try and stay alive within reason to try and keep fighting for the cause, even if we were suffering.
So you're saying you would go through suffering for a chance at a better end or a
Yeah,
goal.
being a good person, being empathetic, it means being willing to suffer yourself to help others.
Right. No, exactly. That's how most people feel, that usually, yeah, life sucks, life is suffering, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There is good, so maybe you shouldn't just end it all.
Yeah, but there's too much bad, really. So effectively, the world we live in is basically hell. And so, only the very few lucky ones benefit from being born in hell. The vast majority get tortured to death as babies. So that's what our world is. That's what life is. People think life is a good thing. It's actually the worst thing. They have it completely upside down.
Well, I'm not exactly. So wouldn't it be, in your opinion, since life is so bad, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it a good thing that babies are taking out essentially early before, say, 80 years of just suffering based on your mindset? Why is that even a bad thing based on your mindset? They do get
Why is it bad
suffering.
that the babies get tortured to death?
Well,
Because torture is a horrible thing to feel.
Right. Well, but just based on your mindset, the alternative is either, I think your
I think you've got it
ideal.
twisted, right? You're saying, why don't we have children get tortured? And I'm saying, let's not have children get tortured.
No, I get that. But it seems like your ideal thing is that no life existed ever, correct? That's what you wish would have happened.
Yeah.
But I don't understand spending time and hours wishing for something that isn't possible, for one. So from
Who's doing
where
that?
we are, right, that life exists.
What are you
Would you
talking about?
rather? Well, from where we are, right? Because I think a lot of people will be like, dang, it'd just be better if none of this ever existed. This sucks, right? Why do I have to go through this? Why was I didn't ask to be here, yada, yada. And I completely get that, but it isn't worth any time or effort to really go down that path at all. It's unbeneficial to anybody.
What path? What are you talking about?
Just everybody, I feel like, goes through that.
Can you explain what you're talking about? Because I don't know what subject you're talking about right now.
Sorry, I'm a yapper. I wish none of this ever happened. Like, why is any of this here? It sucks.
Right, but those people that are just wishing for it, they're just a waste of time, basically. We're an actual movement who are working towards achieving this and to forcibly causing extinction.
Right, I understand where you are now, but I'm again, this is more about mindset right at this moment. Okay.
I'm really struggling to understand what you're asking here.
That wasn't a question. It was more of a statement. But to move on, so would you rather a baby die early than, say, face 60 years of a terrible life?
It would probably be better, yeah.
So then why do you so much heavily rely on that babies torture and die, which, yes, it's awful, but from where you stand in your mindset, I'm trying to get linear with your mindset here. Why is that not? Because I believe.
Better than what? What are you talking about? We're talking about no children getting tortured, right? We're not talking about whether someone has to suffer for 100 years or 100 minutes, right? It's all wrong and unacceptable and cruel, right? So we shouldn't sit here making up excuses for suffering to continue, for children to keep getting tortured. We should be finding ways to help to end all suffering, right? And to make sure it never comes back, to provide total safety for all children everywhere. You're literally sat here saying, can't we just have some children get tortured, right?
No, I think you're being intellectually dishonest a little bit, and unless you're just fully.
I think I'm just being intellectual, not intellectually dishonest. Okay, let's just move on. All right, let's check the queue. The queue is currently empty, so if you want to join, now's a good chance. No child deserves to suffer. No animal deserves to suffer. Disgusting people like the last person that came on. We shouldn't listen to them. You know, if we do, then they'll lead us up the garden path. You know, they're literally saying, isn't it good that children suffer terribly and die? No, it's not good. You know, if it was your child being tortured to death, maybe you would say something different, but because it's other people's children, you don't care and you think it's a good thing. So that's revolting, that's disgusting. No child deserves to suffer. And yeah, you know, all we have really is just people advocating for children to be tortured to death. Why? So that a tiny minority of rich humans can have fun at their expense. That's what people care about. People care about a small minority of selfish people more than they care about an ocean of children being tortured. Like, if this world isn't completely dominated by, you know, Trump and his brainwashing and, you know, all of that nonsense, the capitalist brainwashing, yeah, I don't know. It's just crazy that people can be so happy for child abuse to exist. Like, you know, literally people will say stuff like, child abuse is beautiful. You know, when I hear about a child getting abused, I find it beautiful. And it's like, God damn, what is wrong with these people? What is wrong with them? Like, I'm not even exaggerating. They actually say that. Like, no, Matt, they do say that. Someone said it to me yesterday. They literally do, right? Yeah, you're saying, wow, what bullshit, James. But no, their brains are made of bullshit. That's why they're saying this stuff. They're out there. If you watch any of my streams, you'll see people coming on saying it every day. But you know, abuse makes children better. Child abuse is a good thing. It's like, shut the fuck up. It's not a good thing. And yes, they do say it. So don't deny it. All right, we've got a few requests. Let's get someone on. All right, let's do it. Hello.
Hi. So don't get me wrong, I do agree with you, but the thing is, how will you practically do this? How will you forcefully cause total extinction?
So we are going to do it by gathering activists into the movement until we have enough people to carry it out, basically. We'll probably have to take over the world in some way or another. You know, even just practically speaking, there's obviously no other way that it could work. So that's a necessary part of the plan. And then, let's say we rule the world, we would start doing animal extinction. We would, you know, with euthanasia, it would be painless as possible and ethical as possible. Then we would start removing our dependence on animals as well at the same time. And we would also start researching universe-wide extinction, how life develops on other planets and how we can prevent it. And, you know, all of the other stuff that goes along with making that actually happen. So it's about, you know, discovering the limits of human potential, of science and technology, and using it for good, using it to fight suffering and to provide safety for all.
So what are you going to do? You're going to take over the entire world, and then you're just going to commit a worldwide genocide.
No.
I think personally,
No.
that's just...
No, I said no, Ollie. We're not going to do that.
Okay.
So we need humanity to exist for thousands of more years at least while it carries out this mission. So humans are safe. They're very safe for now. But animals don't need to keep suffering. So we can end animal suffering and we can start working on universe-wide anti-suffering measures.
So you talk about technology and science and humans existing for thousands of years. How about we use technology to start eliminating suffering?
Because that's not realistic.
Yeah, but also isn't
and
realistic.
It's also unethical. It's unethical. It's unethical.
But surely it's also unethical taking over the world, which would cause even more suffering because you need war to do that. Let's be honest.
Ollie, if we had to torture every human on the planet and every animal on the planet for 1,000 years, no, 10,000 years, it would still be less suffering than the alternative. So you're not making any sense. We have billions and billions of years of suffering that we need to prevent. Our time in relation to that is nothing, a drop in the ocean.
Yeah, but like what I'm trying to say, you're trying to take over the world, okay? That's going to cause more animal suffering. That's going to cause more human suffering.
Jesus Christ. Ollie, you don't get it. This is a drop in the ocean, right? And what's going to happen if we don't do it is going to be way worse suffering. So what the hell are you talking about?
Okay, no, I get you now. But, like, at the same time, like, thousands of years will pass, right? Because by now, we're going to have the technology to sort of start eliminating sufferings, right? So eliminating poverty.
The thing is, like, look, animal conditions have never improved ever, not even once in all of history, okay? Animals in nature, they are the majority population on this planet, and yet their conditions have never improved and probably never will. Because what are you going to do, Ollie? You're going to cure every last disease for every last animal. You're going to turn them all into vegetarians. You're going to prevent every last earthquake. You're going to prevent every last injury. You're going to, it's just ridiculous, right? So that's basically magic. It's not a real solution. Extinction is a real solution. And, life continuing is a bad thing anyway. These animals aren't asking to be born into these bodies, right? Into these situations. These bodies are just literally torture devices designed by nature for reproduction. These animals don't even want to exist, really. The vast majority are just tortured to death as babies. It's not a good thing. Glorifying nature is a bad thing. If you want life to exist, it should only be in perfect conditions. That doesn't exist in this world, and the idea that you could create perfect conditions for all life is a joke, a fantasy, and a dangerous one at that causes more suffering. Because you have people, if we have a forest full of suffering and, baby animals being tortured to death, we can end that suffering immediately. Whereas people like you are saying, no, allow the suffering to continue while we create magic itself. So that's probably going to take billions of years. Let them suffer while we try and create magic. It's just ridiculous.
Okay, I get what you mean, but at the same time, your ideology is just so incredibly idealistic because...
Well, why wouldn't you want the ideal situation? People who are against idealism are basically saying we should fight for something stupid and low quality because we're not smart enough to fight for something good. So we actually are smart enough to fight for the ideal, which is the end of all suffering, and there's no reason not to do it except for selfish reasons.
Yeah, but it's unrealistic, isn't it?
No.
Let's be honest. Yeah,
it's not at all. It's not unrealistic at all.
No, I get like the objective of it. That's realistic. That makes sense, Suffering.
Well, you're contradicting yourself if you're saying it's realistic, but it's not.
But at the same time, you can't really
What?
It's just unrealistic to
Why?
take over the entire world.
What part of it is unrealistic?
Well, you can't take over the entire world, can you?
Why not?
Because you're just a small group. You're going to have to go
every group starts out small.
Yeah, but how you gain all these supporters? How you gain...
By doing activism. What do you think the scream is? What do you think I'm doing now? God, you're really struggling here, Ollie. All the answers are right in front of you, under your nose, and you just can't see them. Thank you for coming on, though. Appreciate your time. Okay, we've got GT Battle Mats. No. Okay, we've got... Who else have we got? Well, the queue is looking pretty slim right now, guys. If you want to join, now's a great time. Hopefully we'll get some smarter people on, some more intelligent people. Let's get some debates going. Let's get some conversations. If you have an opinion, a question, now's the time. Okay, that worked. We got someone. And hello, how's it going?
Hi. I'm just curious on how you would depopulate the Earth generally. So, would you generally be for discouraging people from reproducing? Would you be against generally just allowing people to live in general?
So we need humanity to keep reproducing until they've done everything they can do to help other life be safe from suffering. So that means animal extinction, doing as much for the universe as we can. And then finally, once humanity is no longer useful, then it can go extinct unless it's somehow found out a way to discover magic or some crap.
Yeah, but then if you've solved a lot of the suffering, why would we need to go extinct if the suffering's been eliminated? If we're still there, why do we have to go? Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. So, let's imagine that, humanity is extinctionists have taken over the world. We've got, all the animals are gone. And, during all this time that we're doing this, we've built a better world. We've solved lots of cancer and we've solved a world war and crime and all that. The thing is that people are still going to be in danger, right? There's still going to be some level of risk. There's still going to be some risk of, them suffering or creating suffering. So while life exists, there's always going to be a higher risk compared to when life doesn't exist. So the thing is that we shouldn't accept any risk. We should be as against risk as possible, because if you do anything else, then you are directly putting children in danger. So we have to commit 100% of our resources, or as much as we can, to the prevention of suffering, providing safety from suffering, and any risk is going to be unacceptable. So the standard for life existing has to be absolute perfection. It has to be effectively magic, omniscience, omnipotence, because anything less is technically not 100% safe. And so even if the risk seems really far-fetched, seems really unlikely, there's just no point having life if it's going to be at risk.
I can see what you're coming from with that, but wouldn't you agree to an extent that some disadvantages and some suffering is going to happen anyway, even if you're going to try and do that? I think it's inevitable.
Well, no, if there's no life to exist, then there's going to be no suffering.
So the end goal is not to have life at all?
Yeah, the end goal is a universe with no life and no possibility of life, and therefore no possibility of suffering.
Can kind of see that. Why would you want to get rid of animals, though? We technically need them, though, in the ecosystems to keep this world going.
Yeah,
we
need to remove our dependence on animals and the animals. You can't remove animals without removing the dependency, like you said. But animals, why should we remove them? Because they suffer even worse than we do.
But they have to. That's the thing.
Sorry?
If they didn't suffer, they would die. Animals kill each other to survive, so that's nature.
But that's a bad thing.
No, it's not, because if animals didn't kill each other, there'd be a massive overpopulation. Food cycles won't work properly.
Okay, but we don't need it anymore, right?
But why not?
Well, why should animals suffer?
Because they have to.
Why? Why do they have to?
Because that's how they survive. And most animals want to live.
Why do they have to survive?
Most animals want to live. Most people want to live. So...
Well, no, most animals actually, you say they want to live. But I would bet that most animals don't want to be tortured to death as babies, which is what happens to most of them.
You mean in the farming industry?
No, I mean in nature.
Sure, but then they still have that natural instinct to want to survive. That's why they reproduce. That's why they run away from predators. That's why they generally...
If I design a child that likes being abused, are you suddenly going to say, yeah, go abuse it?
No.
No. Hopefully you would say no. Otherwise, you're going to be falling into the same category as all of the other losers that come on my stream and glorify child abuse.
How is that the same, though? Like,
well, you are supporting animal suffering.
A baby
suffering.
When it's defenseless, can't help that. It still doesn't want that to happen.
Listen, if I take a baby animal and stab it to death, you would probably applaud and say, well done. But, I would say that would be a terrible thing.
No,
and that they don't deserve that. They don't deserve to suffer like that, right? So thank you for coming on and supporting animal abuse. But no, we shouldn't have animal abuse or animal suffering, any sort of suffering. It's all wrong. And you have these clowns coming on saying, well, yeah, 99% of them get tortured to death as babies. But what about the 1%? So, what? It's just so moronic. Like, they really think that we should try and prioritize a minority of lucky ones over the majority of ones being tortured. It's crazy. It's like, this is the same type of person that is, glorifying Elon Musk. Like, oh, Elon Musk, please notice me. That, like, licking the boots of the oppressors, basically. So that's sad, pathetic. Do better. Stop supporting animal abuse, child abuse. It's wrong. It's evil. If you support animals and children being abused and suffering, then you are a piece of crap, basically. So anything less than the end of all suffering is immoral, it's cruel, it's evil, it's selfish, it's nasty, and it's by default accepting unlimited suffering and unlimited severity of suffering, to where, you could have torture chambers full of children, and people like that clown would still be like, I don't see the problem. So they're basically blind to suffering. They're blind to any amount of suffering. You could have quite literally a universe full of children being tortured, which is what we have. And they're like, I like it. I like the suffering. God, these people are just hopeless. Okay, the queue is currently empty. Well, empty in terms of people that we would want to talk to on the stream, at least. So if if I haven't sort of restricted you in my mind yet from joining the stream, then push that button now and let's bring you up. So animals suffer terribly, humans suffer terribly, all life suffers terribly. The potential of the nervous system for causing suffering is extreme. Its capacity is enormous. The amount of suffering that life and these poor babies can experience is way worse than these clowns like to admit. The severity is so far beyond what people can understand. Just imagine being eaten alive, the fear, the terror. It's like, personally, it's one of the worst things I can imagine ever happening. And yet it's literally the majority experience for life in this world. Like, I mean, can you imagine if you saw a human baby being eaten alive? Like, you would probably be traumatized for life, right? Like, you would definitely be traumatized for life. And yet, that same ridiculously horrific thing is what people are like, let's have more of that, please. They love the idea of children being ripped apart. They love the idea of children being tortured horrifically. The majority of life being tortured to death as babies. They love it. What's wrong with these sick fucks? Honestly. So we should be against that. We should be as against suffering as possible. We should be in favor of providing safety from suffering for these children, and not finding ways to justify it and excuse it like these sick fucks. I mean, again, like, imagine seeing a baby being eaten alive, the screams, the fear, the horror in its face, its eyes literally being ripped out of its head while it's crying. That's what these people think is good. Like, they are the most horrifically evil people I could ever imagine. It's just disgusting. And again, that is what the majority of life experiences. Animals are basically food on legs. The easiest ones to eat are the younger ones. A nest full of baby birds, that gets attacked by snakes, insects, predatory birds, cats, all sorts of, that's just a big juicy nest of food, basically. And everyone wants it. And yet for the babies that are the food, right, again, you just have to imagine a baby being ripped apart as it's still alive to understand how terrible it is. Yet people don't like thinking about that, and so they're like, oh, it's beautiful, child abuse is beautiful. Like, honestly, these people are sick, absolutely sick. Anyone saying that we shouldn't end all suffering is saying that children should be abused, that they should be literally eaten alive. I mean, I don't think even Epstein would have said something like that. And yet you have people on here saying, yeah, children should be eaten alive, right? These people should go to bloody Bohemian Grove and partake in the child sacrifices if that's what they really want to do, and stop coming on my stream and defending all of this child abuse. Okay, so I'm going to throw it out there again. The queue is in desperate need. You know, the tree of liberty is in need of new blood. So request to join. Let's have a conversation. I'm probably only going to stream for like another half an hour maybe. So, you know, now's your chance if you've got some questions or opinions. But let's get back to thinking about suffering and why it's so bad and all the different ways. Human suffering, it's a pretty bad one. I like to think that animals suffer worse because, you know, we're not being eaten alive as babies in the freezing cold while starving. With parasites and diseases and God knows what else. You know, constant terror and fear and danger. You know, the list goes on. The ways in which what animals suffer in the wild is just, it's crazy. Like, it's ridiculous. It truly is a torture machine. And you have these clowns saying, I want to see more children in the torture machine. It's like, oh, God, no. All right, the queue is still looking anemic. We've got Braden Philosophy. I can't remember if I liked him. We've got BT. Oh, okay, I think BT was okay. Let's get BT on. I think they're a bit quiet, though, so be prepared. Hello, BT.
Hi. I'm glad you think I was okay. How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, do you think we as humans have life figured out? I mean, what if non-existence, there's more suffering in non-existence than there is in existence? So how do you know? Like, we have a lot to figure out about the world and where we're from, and maybe if there's something after we die. So without getting all this information, isn't it a bit strong to come to such a conclusion like extinction?
The thing is, it's the only practical way to operate, because if we were in a constant state of fear of, you know, possible things, then we'd have to be scared of the flying spaghetti monster as well. So there's no proof of an afterlife, there's no evidence, and yet all the evidence is actually against an afterlife existing. And the reason for that is that, like, it doesn't even make sense logically. Our brains change over time. You know, think about it this way, right? If someone gets brain damage and then lives for another 10 years and then they go to the afterlife, are they going to have brain damage in the afterlife? It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't hold any weight as an idea. So if someone shows evidence of an afterlife, then we can believe it. But until then, it's not practical or smart to assume that there might be one, and that, you know, children being tortured is somehow a good thing.
Well, yeah, I get your point, but I mean, if we live long enough in this world, thousands, millions of years, we might figure things out. We might figure if there is an afterlife or where we came from and things like that. Because at this point, there's so much that we don't know. So it's just my opinion that it's always maybe good to wait until we have more information about
But you
this.
see,
But
if
everything else, I
I
agree with you 100%.
the thing is, if I see a pedophile and he kidnaps a woman on the street, he takes her into his house, he rapes the woman, impregnates her, then he has a baby with that woman, then he takes that baby into the dungeon and starts having sex with it until it dies, okay? You're saying that we should allow that instead of preventing it, basically. So we're
Not
saying,
really.
no, we shouldn't allow that. And even if the afterlife was somehow worse, then it would still be the right thing to do extinction, because you would be preventing life from existing and then going into that afterlife. You would be preventing new life to be created to go into that super hell, basically. So extinction is definitely the right thing to do.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you for coming on, BT. Now, okay, maybe I was a bit harsh, but yeah, we can't allow children to be abused just on the basis that there might be a worse afterlife. It's not a practical way to move forward. There's no evidence of an afterlife, but there is evidence of children being abused. Hello, how's it going? Okay, let's move on. We've got someone called A for anti-suffering, maybe. Are they going to load? Loading. Hello.
Hello. I just had a question because I've heard your lives before, and you were saying that you're not an antinatalist, but you do think that extinctionism is the ethical way to reduce suffering. So how do you, I guess, contend with bringing people into this world while also being against suffering?
Yeah, it's the lesser of two evils, basically. If humanity goes extinct, then animals will suffer for billions of years, way worse than humans as well. So, their suffering is far more extreme and far more greater in number as well. So if we have to suffer for 1,000 years as a minority to prevent the majority suffering even worse for billions of years, then that's obviously the right thing to do.
Yeah, but don't you think your ideology can spread through word of mouth rather than genetics?
No.
Or do you think an empathy component is necessary?
It's absolutely necessary. You have so much resistance from the brain that it basically inhibits thoughts and feelings or logic that goes towards extinction and goes against nature. So nature, reproduction, it protects itself by making people agree with it, even though they shouldn't, right? Agree with most life being tortured to death. Because reproduction wouldn't happen if life were intelligent. So nature had to make life really stupid and to think that suffering is totally cool and okay. Otherwise, it just wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, but you want to reproduce as well. So I
don't want to reproduce.
Oh, you just view that as the lesser of two evils, basically.
Yeah.
Are you sure that's not just how you rationalize your reproductive desire to yourself?
Oh, I mean, I've never wanted to have kids.
I mean, I don't know. I don't come from pretty anecdotal, but I don't come from an empathetic pair of parents, and I agree with your movement via word of mouth. So I don't see how that genetic component's necessary. I feel like people just need to be logical enough to understand.
So, okay, look at this. So this is kind of almost like a human intelligence, okay? And it goes up to here. This is the limit at where people are controlled by nature, slaves to nature. So that means that, they agree with suffering, they agree with reproduction, which is most people. Then as you go a little bit further, you have people that are like, yeah, it's all bad, life shouldn't exist, but they won't do activism because they don't care enough, right? They don't have enough empathy. And then you have people that finally have enough empathy to actually take action and work towards a suffering-free world.
Yeah, with the action, I just disagree with your action of reproducing, I guess. If you are actually,
but then you're supporting the bigger of two evils.
But other humans will reproduce, and you can spread the message to those humans who will eventually
But
find.
do you have any evidence of that?
Yeah, historically, all of our ancestors were extremely cruel and low empathy.
Look,
they thought they were good people.
realistically, we've been on this, balls deep in this for a long time. We're basically experts on the question, right? On the issue. So if you want to get involved in it and to take it to a high level with us, then we can have that conversation. But trying to get balls deep into it in a 2-minute conversation on TikTok is never going to work because you yourself are not going to do enough thinking about it properly to engage with the topic properly. So we've done, thousands of hours of thinking on this and research on this, right? We are the experts on this. Most people, they come into the stream, they've never thought about it, and yet they have an incredibly strong opinion based on absolute nothing, basically.
Yeah. So, okay. I get that. So basically reproduce, spread the necessary genetics required to summon the total extinction moment, I guess.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Also,
I
another
understand.
thing is that antinatalism actually causes more suffering, because for every child that does exist in this world, it prevents millions of wild animals from suffering. And that's because we take up an incredible amount of resources and land and space. So the house that you live in, that's preventing wild animals from living there and suffering. The factories that are serving you, all of the food that is being grown on land throughout your entire life, that takes up an enormous amount of land and resources, and that is denying wild animal suffering. So for every human that exists, it prevents millions of wild animals from being tortured.
Never thought about it that way. Interesting. Do you have any plans on how you're going to summon this movement, I guess? Or do you know what you're gonna do technologically maybe, or?
Yeah, so the plan at the minute is basically, so there's a very small minority of people who will do activism for extinction. We are gathering them together. The movement is growing every day. We're getting people from all over the world agreeing to help us and to spread the message with us, to do videos, to put their face on camera. And so we have to get as many of them together as we can so that we have more options for how to proceed forward, more resources. And the more people that we have in the movement, the easier it will get for people like myself to put less time into just spreading the message and to actually starting to develop better solutions and to take us forward. The founder of our movement is donating sperm regularly to get more empathetic genetics out into the population. That's actually the best way. It's kind of even better than having kids yourself, because you can have, hundreds of children if you're donating sperm. So that's one way in which that we're tackling it. Now, it might seem like, so you've got one or two people donating sperm. How is that going to change anything? Well, the thing is that we are at the very inception of this movement, the very start of it. It only started a couple years ago, and it's also the most contrary to human nature as well. So it makes sense that it's a small movement, but we have literally all of time to carry this out. So if it takes thousands of years, millions of years for us to grow the movement enough and to become powerful enough to actually achieve our objectives, then that's what we're going to do. But we're never going to stop fighting for the end of all suffering when you have basically infinite children being tortured that need our help.
Okay. So then once all the other life forms are gone, the human extinction movement will finally be able to take place. Or once you've discovered all the other ways to finally...
So we, as humans, we should do as much as possible to help other life and to provide safety from suffering. As long as we're useful, we should exist. If we're no longer useful, then we should be safe from suffering ourselves and go extinct.
Okay, so by a higher life form, if one ever is discovered, that is
well, we might have to do it ourselves, but most likely in the future, AI is going to run everything, right? Most likely.
That's true.
So yeah, AI is probably going to be a big part of the movement going forward. And, I think even without extinction, AI is probably going to run the world in 50 years from now anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for conversing with me. Appreciate your perspective.
My pleasure. Thank you for joining. And as always, consider checking out our website, pro-extinction.com. We have our full FAQ. We have at the bottom of the page on the website the links to our Discord and our WhatsApp group. You can join, become an activist, join the community fighting against suffering. We will help you make videos. We will train you up. We'll teach you. And join the community, growing the movement and fighting to end all suffering. Even if you can't make videos, there are other ways to contribute. You can still be in our chats, in our groups. Even if you think, I might only be able to help every now and then. it's better than nothing. It is better than nothing. So every little helps. Join and help if you can. And let's get another guest on. Hello, how's
Hey,
it
what's
going?
up? How you doing, man?
Good, good. How are you?
So yeah, I'm good. So you guys are like a consequentialist movement, right? Like that's I've just read the manifesto and it seems that that's like the main thesis is consequentialism, right?
I mean, the main thing is ending all suffering, really. But yeah, we should do it however necessary, right? Because that's the lesser of two
Okay.
evils.
So but you think like it should be like the quickest way, right? Or do
Um,
you care about because I think that, right, if we look at pleasure and we look at pain and we just say like pain and suffering are pretty interchangeable, right? Suffering's just the like longer duration of pain. Um, right, we can obviously say that we don't want to experience pain, but I think a total of elimination of pain, the quickest way to do this would literally just be self-unalivement. Like I literally like if we or just like forced sterilization and then self-unalivement of like everybody. Like I think this is like the simplest, quickest way, right? You would agree, right?
no. So basically, what we need to do is to have animal extinction with euthanasia. Sterilization is not the right way to do it because it still leaves them to suffer terribly. So euthanasia is much more effective. It provides immediate safety. So that's a massive advantage over sterilization. Massive advantage. Because if you
Yeah.
sterilize them, then you're still saying that life should suffer, right?
Yeah. So you think we should like euthanize humans though?
So we should remove our dependency on animals on Earth, remove the animals on Earth, do as much as we can for the rest of the universe, ideally work towards a universe with no life, no possibility of life, no possibility of suffering anywhere. And so as humanity should continue for as long as it's useful. If we can create AI and robots that can do it without us, then at that point we can go extinct a lot faster. It's unclear at the present moment when that's going to happen. You know, it could be that 100 years from now humanity is completely useless, or it could be that humanity continues to have a use thousands of years into the future because, you know, for example, like a solar flare could knock out the AI, right? So biological life may well have advantages. That's something that will be looked into further closer to the time, basically. But yeah.
Okay. So I just see immediate like problems with the view. So we want to say that like all suffering is bad. Like like microsecond of suffering is immediately bad, which I don't take to be the case at all. Right? I think there's some suffering that can bring about like way higher amounts of like pleasure and like well-being, right?
Yeah,
And
but
happiness.
that type of suffering though is completely unimportant because it's such a negligible minority. It basically doesn't exist.
Yeah. But what you on the prompt and what the Extinction Movement wants to say is we want to end all suffering. So you want to end this amount of suffering, right? Like maybe I'm in the gym and temporarily I'm in like an immense amount of discomfort due to like training to failure or whatever.
Yeah, but
You want to take
we're
this
not
away
doing
from
this.
me.
We're not doing this because of people in the gym.
No. What I'm saying is you're saying all suffering, right? And it needs to be like quantified what kind of suffering, how much suffering, what's the duration, what's the intensity, right? Because there's suffering, right, that brings about a higher amount of well-being and good in the world, right, intrinsically. Now, the problem with your position is you want to eliminate all of this, right? And I just take it to be the case that you're eliminating any instance of pleasure at all, right? And I value pleasure. Everybody values pleasure.
Well,
Right,
yeah,
because
but
it
the
leads
thing
to a
is,
greater
not
state of
everyone values
well-being.
pleasure, by the way, and also
Okay,
safety.
well, like I would say most
safety.
people intuitively
Yeah,
value
but
pleasure.
safety
Right?
for children is more important than any amount of pleasure.
Okay, then we should go around and pop kids in the head because it prevents them from ever being raped, right?
Well, no, we shouldn't do that. We should work peacefully and legally and in a rational way towards total extinction. You know, because otherwise you're going to do it in an ignorant and irresponsible way, like that guy was saying, which is only going to cause more harm, right? If everyone went out into the streets and started doing violence, you'd have to be a complete idiot to think that that's going to help aliens on other planets or animals on the other side of Earth. Like, what? Honestly, Okay, so we've got somebody else joining. Let's have a look. Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, I'm not liking the look of this queue. Not liking it. But, all right, screw it. Let's get Braden on. No, Braden's gone. Okay, the queue is basically empty now. So, let's do one last person, and then I do have to go. So one last person. Who's it going to be? You know, the fastest one to hit that button, probably going to join. So now's your chance. Oh, no, still waiting. So what's worse, human suffering or animal suffering? Well, most animals, they suffer terribly, they get eaten alive, so that's probably worse. That's probably a worse experience than anything any human ever experiences, with a few rare exceptions. So like the majority experience, the most common experience for animals is to be eaten alive. And yeah, I think it's probably worse than anything that your average person experiences in their whole life. Yet that's the only experience that most animals get. They get eaten alive as babies. So, I mean, you wouldn't want to experience that. You wouldn't want to be born into a world confused. You don't know anything. You don't know where you are, why you are. And then suddenly you're being eaten alive by the most horrifying looking predator ever. And the feeling is just excruciating terror and pain and fear, right? You know, there's a reason why that's a bad thing. It's because they experience absolute horrors. Most people don't really have a good understanding of suffering. You know, you have like clowns like the last guy thinking it means going to the gym. But suffering is far worse than most people realize. You know, I made a video about it. You know, if you ask most people, how bad can suffering get? They're probably like, I don't know, like I stubbed my toe yesterday, that was pretty bad. They're not thinking about, you know, children trapped in dungeons, children born with chronic pain and cancer, baby animals being eaten alive, also trapped with chronic pain and diseases. You know, the worst life ever lived, right? It would have to be so absurdly, horrifically bad that it would be like a war crime to force anyone to live that life, right? And yet, that happens regularly. You know, the worst lives are actually the most common lives. And you wouldn't want to live it, believe me. So, yeah, okay, you've got 99% of animals being eaten alive as babies. That's pretty bad. You do also have worse lives than that, though. So in terms of... So yeah, it's obviously horrible to get eaten alive as a baby. But what could be worse than that? Well, prolonged suffering, a longer duration of suffering, a life of suffering, being trapped in a life of hell. And that happens, you know, for far too many, for humans and animals. So, for example, you've got, you know, people born with chronic pain, chronic illness, diseases that torture them. You've got people born with and living with depression, extreme depression. So, you know, to be trapped in a life of hell, it does happen. Happens to animals as well. You know, they get captured by sadists and then tortured for their whole lives, or they just have to live with extreme suffering, diseases. Even in nature, animals have a life of hell, and they can't just escape it, right? The idea that they're able to escape it is a naive fantasy. You know, every single day I have people coming on saying, oh, you care about child abuse? Well, you know, they can just opt out. They can unalive themselves. How is a baby going to do that, right? How is a baby going to unalive itself? How is an animal going to unalive itself? And how is a person with depression going to unalive themselves when their survival instinct, their fear, and their mental illness prevents them from being like capable enough of doing that? And even if they did, it's still unacceptable that they had to suffer so bad that they then had to do that horrible thing. And yet people think that's a good thing. People hear the idea of someone trapped in the life of hell having to, basically fight a mental battle of horror and nightmares to bring themselves to then finally commit an act of ultimate self-harm, and then experiencing that as well, and the fear while you're doing it. They're like, I could fall asleep listening to that. They love it, right? It's like soothing to basically, I wonder if these people have headphones on with like children screaming. That's basically what we're looking at here. They go to sleep listening to the sounds of screams and torture. That's, would make sense for, basically it's what they're saying, right? Obviously it's not, but it might as well be, because they are saying children deserve to suffer. Ontic status, are you coming on? No, they failed to join again. So, one of the main reasons people are so ignorant about suffering is that they just don't understand how terrible suffering is. And the reason for that is that their brains actually prevent them from thinking about suffering properly. When most people try to think about suffering and how bad it is, they romanticize it in their brains. They don't actually think about it in an accurate way. So their brains purposefully prevent them from thinking about suffering in a correct and rational and accurate way, because that is a mechanism which reinforces reproduction. So if our brains weren't doing that, then we wouldn't reproduce and life wouldn't exist. But the thing is that life would still exist, because the ones who are stupid enough to reproduce, they carry on. The smarter ones, they don't reproduce and they go extinct. So what that means is that life is by default always stupid. Only the stupid life survives and reproduces. So you will always get stupid life, majority stupid life, because it has to be stupid to reproduce. So that's how evolution works. Evolution relies on stupidity, because otherwise we wouldn't reproduce. Think about it this way. Literally over 99% of baby animals get killed in the first few days in a horrific way in nature. Would a rational parent, happily put their children into that situation where most of them are going to get tortured to death? Let's say you've got a human and they know that if they have kids, their kids will be eaten alive on day one. Are they going to, say, yeah, let's have kids? No, right? No, they're not, okay? But that's what happens in nature, and that's what animals do and are forced to do by their biology, right? They are forced to not care about their kids and to put their kids into extreme danger, because, not for a good reason, but for a bad reason, but because that's what favors reproduction. So essentially, whatever favors reproduction is bad. We kind of grow up thinking that evolution makes us stronger, makes us fitter, and it kind of does to an extent, yeah. But the more important thing isn't the fitness or the survival, it's the stupidity for reproducing. That's far more important. Evolution doesn't want incredibly powerful animals that don't reproduce. It would rather have, completely stupid animals that do reproduce. And that's exactly what we have in this world today. But the thing is that the mechanisms in the human brain responsible for causing so much stupidity and for restraining our intelligence, they are extremely powerful mechanisms. And as I keep explaining with this thing, most people are trapped within those mechanisms and cannot escape essentially their intelligence. Oh, he's not an intelligent person, he's a bit more intelligent. Right, we can say people have different levels of intelligence, but most people's level of intelligence is trapped within stupid nature ways of thinking. It makes them nature slaves. That's what I'm calling it. I'm coining the term nature slave. Nature slavery. It's where you are basically a slave to nature. You defend nature, you defend abuse, suffering, reproduction. So yeah, reproduction is the most powerful thing. It's what determines our characteristics, our traits. It's not survival of the fittest, it's reproduction. That's the only thing that determines anything. So ensuring life was incredibly stupid was the priority for reproduction and evolution. It was the most important thing, right? Imagine if evolution made life really smart, okay? It's not gonna be like, yeah, child abuse is a good thing. That's what stupid people say. So the more intelligent life is, the less likely it is to reproduce. Now, nature found an amazing way to sort of twist human intelligence to where we can use our intelligence for survival, but we can't use it to judge reproduction properly. So it's an incredible sort of twisted brain that we've got, like a real sick version of what our brains should be. Okay, we've got a guest coming on, Lux. Lux, we're bringing you on.
Good evening, man.
Hello.
How you doing, man?
I'm good, how are you?
Well, I'm fine, thanks. Why would you say that like the only solution for like suffering would be like total extinction of like the human race?
Well, all life, not just the human race, but there is no other way to solve suffering, right?
Well, I think suffering is something positive.
But for who?
For any individual substance of a rational nature.
But most life dies as a baby after suffering terribly. So how does suffering benefit those that die?
Yeah, from suffering we derive like a positive outcome.
Yeah, but how does suffering benefit those who die from it?
Yeah, for example, by eternal life. In classical theism, we apply that context that there's like an external life.
Okay. All right, well, that's probably enough for today. There's 3 people in the queue, but, well, I can't remember if Simon was any good. Maybe he was, actually. Maybe we should bring Simon up before I go. All right, let's do it. He might be a troll, I really can't remember. Oh, no. As I keep explaining to you guys, the queue has ghosts. So if someone joins the queue, and then they leave the stream, they turn their phone off, it doesn't tell me that. They're still in the queue. So I press accept, and then they disappear. So the queue has ghosts, and unfortunately, I am going to call it there. But I'll definitely be streaming tomorrow, 100%, probably around the same times. And I've put out like 3 videos today, so check those out. Follow my channel, and also join the movement. On my TikTok profile, there is a clickable button to the website. You just have to press it and you'll go. And at the bottom of the page is the link to our Discord group. You just have to press the button and you'll join. And the link to our WhatsApp group as well. Again, just press the button. Become an activist, do videos with us, help us grow the movement and help us end all suffering. And, if you want to talk to me, you can talk to me on Discord and WhatsApp, or you can even message me directly on TikTok. I reply to pretty much everything. So, yeah, thanks everyone, and we'll